Well, now that the hour of 6 o'clock has arrived.
Recording in progress.
All right. At this time, I would like to call the meeting for the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District, September 23rd, regularly called meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Gould.
Here.
Orzali.
White. Here.
Orzali.
Here.
Yes. Wood.
Here.
Sheets. Here. Jones.
Here.
White, thank you. You're here. Clark.
Here.
Sailors.
Here.
And Kelly.
Present.
Perfect.
All right. Pledge to the flag. If you would repeat after Director Wood. To the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I apologize for not standing. Just health conditions make it difficult for me. All right, moving on to our Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotaped for cablecast on Metro Cable 14. Replay on Sunday, September 26th at 9 a.m. and Monday, September 27th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14 webcast at metro14live.saccounty.net. Again, that is metro14live.saccounty.net. Next, we have a public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
I was not contacted ahead of time, but Art, if you please unmute everybody so they have the opportunity to speak.
Hello, attendees. You have the ability to unmute yourselves if you would like to present anything to the board at this time.
All right. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, this is Director Jones. I move consent items.
Second. Third.
Madam Clerk, we had a motion by Director Jones, and you can pick a name for the second. We've got a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Gould.
Aye.
Orzali.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets. Aye. Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Sailors.
Aye.
Director Kelly.
Aye.
Passes.
Okay, moving on to our action items. Item number 1 is the Sacramento Mobile Integrated Health Care Pilot Project. Is Captain Perryman here? And Mr. O'Toole?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. Board of Directors, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. As you know, my name is Scott Perryman. I'm one of your captains here, and it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight to discuss what we have been talking about for some time now, which is Sacramento Mobile Integrated Health. We have looked at mobile integrated health programs around the region, and we've looked at those programs and what they've worked well in and what they could work well in here. And so we've come together with a lot of time and effort spent together. And you can imagine that getting multiple health systems and government agencies and a lot of partnerships to come together has been a challenge. But we came together last year on September 9th, and we were able to present an MOU between the Hospital Council and Metro Fire, which was approved for a one-year funding pilot program. Unfortunately, due to COVID and other adventures that we experienced last year, we were unable to move forward with it, and the contract has expired. So today in your packet, we have an updated MOU with updated dates and hopefully with your approval. Now, because of some amazing work and a lot of effort put into it, we also have an additional funding source, and that is a partnership with Sutter Valley Health Systems. They've joined the movement, and you'll see in your board packet that there's an MOU with some additional funding. That additional funding will be very beneficial to this program and will allow us to buy much needed equipment and make the program sustainable for the pilot. And that's why you will see a budget update in that. You can imagine that getting two MOUs together and getting everybody happy with everything, it has been a tremendous amount of work. And that's why I'd like to make special recognition to our general counsel, who's put a lot of effort into it, along with our command staff. Chief Harms has been amazing, along with Chief Mitchell and Chief Wagaman. They've been very, very helpful in getting everybody to come together. And so with all of those things together, we also have funding that we're looking forward to make this happen. Now, I'm not an expert in that funding mechanism, and so we wanted to make sure we have an expert who can make sure that we have the funding in the correct locations and that it's transparent, so those who are invested in this program feel comfortable that they've made a good, wise investment. So to speak on the investment of the money, we have our new CFO, David O'Toole, who can mention some of those aspects on any specific questions you might have. So I'll invite David to come forward and just give a brief summarization of the budget and where we're moving things. And then I'll move to a few more comments.
Good evening, President Kelly and members. I'm Dave O'Toole, the Chief Finance Officer. I'm already being called an expert. I've been around out for 3 weeks. The Finance Division reviewed the proposed budget changes and for the MIH program, and we're requesting approval of two resolutions tonight. The first asks for budget amendments totaling $368,045 as a result of additional grant funding, coupled with the initial grant funding of $736,000 from last year, and will be carrying and carried over to the current year. The final budget amount of those two sums is $1,104,135 precise. And the second resolution before you tonight is for the shift for administrative costs. It's $80,135 from the grants fund to the general fund operating fund for the costs associated with administering MIH. The additional funds, as we said, were not known. These additional funds were not known when the budget was initially finalized a couple weeks ago. So we have the amendments before you today. So thank you for considering that as a request. Any questions, or turn it back over to Scott?
I'm ready for any questions, and then I'll have Chief Harms if you have anything to add.
Matt, you're muted.
Nope, we've lost his audio.
You're muted.
He's muted. Yeah. There you go.
Here, perfect.
I see nothing from any of the directors. Nobody's hands up.
Matt, mine's up.
Oh, okay. So we've got Director Gould, and then we'll have Director Woods. Please, Director Gould, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Captain Perriman, could you just do me a huge favor and step in front of the little podium thing? For whatever reason, our cameras can't see you. I can see your bald head now. Just wondering if behind you, I mean, yeah, there you go. Just stay right there. Just stay right there. I appreciate all the work that you've done, and I've known that this has been a long haul for you personally, bringing all these different groups together. And I think few people can appreciate just how much work you've done. One of the questions that I have, and I apologize if I missed this in the readings for tonight's meeting, but can you share with me, not necessarily tonight, but in the future, can you share with me the matrix that you all are using to determine success of this integrated healthcare pilot? I would like to see what are some of the visions that you have and that your team has of how we can achieve success in this pilot to justify long-term investments as you can imagine, I'm a little nervous that we're piecing this baby together from multiple different groups when it should be institutionalized for the next several decades. But if you could, when it fits your schedule, again, I'm not asking for this immediately, but when you get a chance, if I could see what the matrix are that you're using as benchmarks for success, it sure would help me capture the vision beyond what you've provided. And thank you for being accommodating and stepping in front of that podium thing so I could actually see your face, since it's been about a year. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Gould, absolutely. We'll sit down and discuss, and I can show you those matrix. You'll
Perfect.
very similar to some of the other programs that have had great success also.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Director Woods, did you have something?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I echo what Director Gould said. You've commended others here, but I just want to make sure you get recognition, because I know this program has been on your shoulders since at least 2017 when we talked about it back in DC. So, well, it's good to recognize everyone else's work. You need to get recognized as well for all that you've done. So thank you for everything you've done to get us here. And if you could make that available, whatever you do with Grant, if you could make that available to us. Okay. Thanks.
All right, seeing no other directors, Chief Harms.
Thank you for the portion of it. Scott has done an incredible job, and he kind of briefly just said, you know, with a few other things going on, but if you look at our vaccination, testing, everything that we've done to keep this system running, and the ability to do it internally and not be reliant on others, Scott has really done that portion of it. It has been challenging, as you said, working with healthcare, who has all these things going on also, to be able to move it forward. So I'll be honest, I didn't think we would get it done in time, but we have. John and the rest of the staff have done just a tremendous job of finding, you know, the ability to pull these things together and being able to move forward. So I'm very happy to. It's taken a while, but I'm very happy for us to turn this corner right now and be able to start talking about the impact portions of it as we move forward. Good job.
All right, thank you. And at this time, I would entertain a motion on that authorizes the fire chief to execute the memorandums of understanding by and between the Hospital Council and the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District with Sutter Hospital and Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District for the MIH pilot program. What's your pleasure with that?
I so move it.
Second.
Director Clark.
We have a motion by Director Clark and a second by Director Gould. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Gould,
Aye.
Roselli. Director Roselli.
He's frozen.
Uh-oh.
Or he's having a stroke.
No.
No, good.
Or Zolly, come on, buddy. No.
Director
You
Wood,
guys are so bad.
Well, no, I'm serious. Somebody getting on the phone.
yeah. Director Sheets. Aye. Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Sailors.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. We also have another portion of this item B, adopt a resolution amending the final budget for the general operating fund 212A for fiscal year 2021-22.
Mr. Chair, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Sailors.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution amending the final budget for the general operating fund 212A for fiscal year 2021-22.
Second.
We have a motion by Director Sailors and a second by Director Gould. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Director Gould.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets. Aye. Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Sailors.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And we have item C also. It is to adopt a resolution amending the final budget for the grant funds 212G for fiscal year 2021-22.
I'll just
I'll
second
make the
things. Okay.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution amending the final budget for the Grants Fund 212G for fiscal year, financial year 2021-2022.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Director Sailors and a second by Director Gould. I neglected, but any questions on the motion? Seeing no questions, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Gould.
Aye.
Wood. Sheets.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Sailors.
Aye.
And Kelly.
Aye.
Passes.
All right. That concludes item 1, correct? All right. Moving on to item 2, the fiscal 2020 Assistance to Firefighters Grant Award Acceptance. Ms. Castleberry.
Good evening, everyone. Pleased to be here tonight to bring the fiscal year 20 Assistance to Firefighters Grant Award Acceptance to the board. On February 10th, Metro Fire applied for a $3.5 million grant for the replacement of 90 cardiac monitor defibrillators. We have received that award. The award was slightly reduced, and that is due to the fact that there are caps for AFG and how much an agency can be awarded based on their population. And the maximum that Metro Fire can receive based on our population is $3 million, which, as you can see, we are a few dollars shy of that. So the award will provide just shy of $3 million in federal funds, and it will require a match of about $300,000 and an additional of around $260,000 in overage. That's just the total cost of the project. We are working on trying to work with procurement and utilizing some cost-saving contracting measures to reduce that overage so that the impact to the district will be actually less than that. So with that said, we have a resolution to accept the grant award. We also have a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2021-22 212G budget, as well as the 212A budget for the required match. So I would take any questions. Otherwise, I will recommend the approval of those resolutions.
Mr. Chair, I
Thank you
make
very
the
much.
motion.
I'll second.
I'll second.
We've got a motion by Director Gould, a second by, I think, Director Sheets. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets. Jones. Director Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Sailors.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, on to item number 3.
Do you have to do those budget amendments separately or no? Great. All right, next item is the fiscal year 20 Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant Award, also affectionately known as SAFER. So back in March, the district applied for a approximately $11.5 million grant for 21 firefighting positions. And that award was funded in full. And there is no match requirement, so there is no fiscal impact to the district. It is a 3-year grant term that $11.5 million is anticipated to cover the cost of the 21 firefighters for 3 full years of employment. And we are asking the board approve this grant award as well as amend the 212G budget to allow year 1 of those grant funds. Future years of funding will be included in those appropriate budgets.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we accept
Second.
We've got a motion by Director Gould, a second by Director Clark. And that motion would be to adopt the grant acceptance resolution for the funding of 21 firefighter positions for a period of 3 years and the budget amendment resolutions. So any questions on this motion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Gould,
An enthusiastic yes.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets. Aye. Jones,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Sailors,
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Has anybody checked in on Director Orzali?
He is good. He's trying to rejoin the meeting.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Moving on to reports. President's report. Well, now that I've got you all gathered, I have nothing to report. Fire Chief's report.
Good evening, directors. This has been a pretty good night of action items for us. I just want to
Excellent.
talk and Erin and her group and
meeting now then.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, no problem.
See you.
thank them for hard work and the amount of effort that has to go in to make sure that the grants are at the top. And so if you look at the SAFER grant, one of the things that they used to do with SAFER would be the first year they would be like a 70-30 split. The next year was a 50-50 split. And the final year was 30-70 as far as the cost. When they came out and announced that with SAFER coming up is that they were looking at 3 years, fully covering people during that time. You knew right then is that your grant had to be written very well. It had to meet all of the guidelines. Everything had to be in place just because there's no negative incentives of putting in for it to being able to do it. So while I was always encouraging people, I thought in the back of my head that knowing how many people are putting into it, it will be challenging for being able to move forward. Not only did we receive it, but we received it in the very first round, which you look at that portion of it, we were the second largest recipient of funding. A lot of it went to smaller departments. The impact for us, 21 bodies into the system, which will be additional bodies, gives us an opportunity to be able to look at staffing levels, look at deficiencies, look at geographical areas, and truly be able to do things that we wouldn't be able to do kind of within the constraints of our budgets that we have. And at the same time, as I think it's the right thing to do is as we start the process, you always start thinking about the 3 years out and what do we do at that point in time and start that planning ahead of time. Because we all know we're going to blink and it's going to be 3 years in just a matter of minutes that goes by. But again, thank you, Erin, and thank you, everybody. The grants too, it's amazing that just in my time, the cost and the complexity of what a monitor is and the cost of that and everything. And again, much like our SCBA's, those large items, being able to replace those through federal funding just allows us to do other things. Well, think about it. That's another $15 million in the budget that allows us to do other things in replacement. So outstanding job by Scott and his group for getting that off and moving forward. A couple things to go through, new hires. Marquis Tucker was hired as a position of a business application analyst. She will be working in the IT division and started on September 10th. We're recruiting now for captain engineers and firefighters internally for the air operations division as a rescuer. That will close in October. Some of the meetings for me personally, we continue to meet on the EMS side of it. And probably one of the biggest issues that we continue to look at being able to have an impact on is wall times and the amount of times that our ambulances are on the walls. We've had two, what I would say were productive meetings with the CFOs of all the hospitals. And I was very happy on the second meeting for them all to be back on again. We are, I'll just say, is struggling with our own LIMSA, which is the local area EMS. I will just say every thought that we have for improvement it's either going to take years to move it forward, or the answer is just flat out no. So we will continue to move forward with that. Our attorney, Bruce Scheitz, has been working with us very closely on our legally, what are the parameters that we have, and making sure that we're staying in those, and making sure that the anything that is said or anything that is proposed falls within the ranges that is legal for us to do, or if other people are saying it, that it's legal. And then the last thing is just looking at such a drawdown on ambulances is what are some additional surge protection things that we can do to make sure, because I feel at the end of the day, we all say our number one priority is service delivery, and the last thing that we want to do is have a company trying to decide, do I put the person in an engine and drive them to the hospital, or we're waiting for an ambulance to be able to come when we know that ultimately that's where they need to be. And I don't think it's appropriate to wait until something bad happens and then try to respond, but trying to be as proactive as we can for moving forward. Myself and who else was with us? Myself, Chief Wagaman, and Chief Mitchell went down to the annual Chiefs Conference last week and had some time down there with some other departments across the, really across the state, to talk about some of the challenges that are going on. Myself and Chief Mitchell really enjoy doing videos a lot. And so we've been trying to do as many videos as we can. I hope everybody else is enjoying them. Our last one we updated on really statewide responses, you know. Actually today everybody is home, but I bet by tomorrow we'll have additional people that are leaving. But deployments across the state and the impact of those, updates on staffing, our firefighter academy, our SRP academy, and the lateral recruitment updates that we did on there, and then just as always COVID and where we're at, the best practices that we're following, and what information we're receiving from the county. I met with the Captain's Academy last Friday. We did kind of some expectations and leadership, but really did some opportunity for them to get up in front of the group and speak. I enjoyed it a lot. I don't think they enjoyed it quite as much. Labor management, we met earlier this week. We went through some things about texting for staffing, COVID, vacation bids. We started talking about the SAFER grants. How does labor and management work together to make sure that we use the bodies and the information and the money we have in the best position, wall times, and ambulance deployment model. One of the things that we agreed to is that in January is to sit down as an organization with operations and labor and the membership and look at our deployment of our ambulances. And is it the best deployment that we have? Are there other options of things that we can do? Where do we have not only ambulances at, but how do we staff those ambulances? The system that we have today have been in place for quite a while. It's a very good system, but I think you should always step back and look at our system and say, is there a way that we can improve what we do each and every day out there? So in January, we'll start that and start looking at where we're at and where we go from there. The last thing, and Chief Mitchell will talk a little bit about it, is that there was an EMS Memorial Ride today, and I had the opportunity to go out there, and it was great to see the support and one of our retired members riding in that. So unless somebody has a question for me, I'll turn it over to Chief Mitchell for the operations report.
Welcome to the dais, Mr. Mitchell. Chief Mitchell, excuse me.
Over a little bit so I don't get out of the camera angle there, but it feels weird. So good evening, everybody. I'll start off tonight's ops report with some training updates. As Chief Harms mentioned, the Captain's Academy was last week. We had a number of members that attended that. Very successful week. The feedback we're getting is very positive. We're doing those for a number of our promotional positions prior to the exams to try to set our folks up for success. And we've seen success over the last few years in that. I'm happy to say the feedback on this last one was very good. All of the members went through and took a written exam, and they're all moving forward to our next part of the practical. And I think you guys see 17 total of them to the practical. Yes, sir. Cap. So that'll be happening the week of October 4th. And then following that, we have a number of open positions we look forward to promoting some folks into. So more to come on that. Secondly, our Fireground Survival Train the Trainer course is coming up next week. We're going to train up 30 of our members over 4 days to be lead instructors to train our entire district, blind personnel, on fireground survival techniques. This is a result of the grant from the IAFF, assisted by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and Assistance to Firefighters Fire Act that we accepted last September on September 10th. We're finally getting to that operational phase now. We're waiting for some equipment and things like that. Once we train up these members to be lead instructors, we'll start in December and go through and train every single member that's out on the line and some of these skill sets on how to keep ourselves safe and to get ourselves out of trouble. So as you can imagine, as a district, that's a huge undertaking. So for the training division, it's going to take a lot of time, effort, and energy to get that done. But we will get there well in front of the performance period we have for this grant. So that's good news for our folks in the training regard. Chief mentioned about the OES status. All of our equipment and personnel have returned. They are all ready to go to answer the call as necessary as we continue to move towards our peak fire season historically. Obviously, it's been a rough one already. Late breaking as I walked into the meeting here this evening within the last hour, the fawn incident up in the Shasta County area near Lake Shasta has rapid expansion and growth, and unfortunately started getting some homes. So we anticipate, we've already seen one order come in, and probably we'll see some more over the next few days to go up there and help those folks. So our members are ready to do that. On the National EMS Memorial Bike Ride that Chief Harms mentioned, and it came up in the last meeting in the Fire Chief's report, it kicked off today. Again, Engineer Kyle Rutherford is an honoree for Metro Fire in this year's ride, and retired Captain Matt McGrew is riding in his honor. It started in Rancho Cordova and will end up in San Francisco. Happy to report that the first leg was successfully completed today by Captain McGrew and the group. They are in Vacaville this evening and will continue that ride towards the Bay tomorrow. So that's good news there. Also, the goal, it's a fundraising event. The goal was for the West Coast riders to raise $20,000. And as of 8 a.m. this morning, they're about 81% of that goal. So that's good news and working towards reaching that 20,000. Those monies will go to support families of the fallen folks from EMS, as well as to build that national monument for EMS line of duty deaths back in DC. And then finally tonight on the statistics front, we've had 4,915 total calls since our last report, which is about 350 calls a day. It's right in that realm where we've been for a while now. We've had 20 building fires our members have responded to, 6 within our own jurisdiction. Engine 53 is the busiest. Medic 105 is the busiest ambulance. But the highlight tonight that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention that continues to really keep our situational awareness up is the call volume increases we've seen, and our crews are out there doing a great job. Giving you an idea of the increase, some data that compares just from September 1st through September 22nd, from 2019, 2020 to 2021. Back in 2019, we ran 12,642 calls a day during those first 22 days of the month up till yesterday. And then we had an increase in 2020 up to 12,738. So that went from about 575 calls per day in the county up to 579. This year alone, the first 22 days of the month, we ran 15,059 calls. So we're up at 685 calls per day as a county, which is an increase of over 105 calls per day. So as we've been talking about folks being busy out there, the statistics are showing that. And then again, back to 2020 for total incidents throughout the whole year, just for Metro Fire, we were at 98,181 at the end of the year. Currently, our numbers right now, we are on track to break the record for Metro by thousands of calls. We're currently on track to run over 110,000 calls as a district. Our old record was just over 100,000. So our folks are out there busy. They're doing a great job. And I just want to highlight that they're out there every day doing what we ask of them, providing that service delivery. I'm very proud to say that they're doing phenomenal. So unless there's any questions, that's the end of the operational report.
Thank you, Chief Mitchell. Any directors have questions of Chief Mitchell's report? Thank you again, sir. Moving on to General Counsel's report. Mr. Labra.
So thank you, Director Kelly. Yes, I'd like to bring to the board's attention the fact that the governor signed a bill, AB 361, on September 16th, which speaks to the issue of conducting these meetings by teleconference. And under this bill, the district can continue to have these meetings using the teleconferencing procedures that are in place now. However, there has to be some certain findings made by the board in order to do that. On September 20th, the governor signed an executive order which made AB 361 effective October 1st. So unfortunately for us, our meeting right now is falling in between the time of him signing that executive order and the date that the statute is to be implemented. And so for that reason, it's my advice that the board, if upon proper motion, can take up the issue as to whether or not they want to continue to conduct meetings by the teleconferencing procedures we're using now. If the board doesn't act on that tonight, then the next meeting would be an in-person meeting subject to teleconferencing procedures, but those procedures would be the old procedures that were in place under the government code prior to the time of the pandemic. They're much more burdensome in terms of posting the agenda, what has to be on the agenda, where the agenda has to be posted, ADA accessibility at off-sites where directors may be appearing by Zoom. And so we'd be back in the situation that we were prior to the pandemic. So in order for the board to, or for the district to be able to conduct these meetings in the current way, they'd have to make adopt a resolution this evening that finds that there is, as a result of the state of emergency that's in place, meeting in person would present an imminent risk to the health and safety of attendees. And so I wanted to bring that to the board's attention tonight. Now is the proper time probably to act on this issue. We have the authority to act on the issue if there's a motion made and upon 2/3 vote, the board decides they want to act on the issue. And like I said, if we don't, we're back to the old way come October 14th, unless the board has the option to meet in a special meeting between now and then to decide whether they wanted to continue with the procedures. Now, under the statute, the new procedures are basically the same as the procedures that are in place now. The statute specifies some additional procedures in terms of public comment section, the public comment section, and the time for public comment, and certain things like that that are details really that we already basically comply with. But I wanted to bring this to the board's attention and give the board the opportunity to decide that issue tonight. In my opinion, there's a sufficient foundation for the board upon proper motion and upon proper vote to hear it tonight. And then I also believe that there's a proper foundation for the board to vote to continue the same way and to find that there's an imminent risk of the health and safety of attendees. And I have some data on that, and you folks may also have your own information about how the state of emergency and the pandemic might be affecting attendees of these board meetings. And the last thing I would say is that by continuing to proceed this way, in my opinion, we're actually giving the public more access. The purpose of the statute is to allow board members to appear by video conference, but also to allow the public to appear by video conference. So by proceeding in this way, we're giving the public really the option. If they want to come in here and publicly speak or publicly monitor the meeting, they can. But if they feel uncomfortable doing that, they have the option of doing that by teleconference, the way we're doing it now, or by telephone. And that wasn't the last thing. Actually, the last thing is there's, and I hadn't had an opportunity because the statute was so new to actually look at the final enacted version of the statute until this morning. But there's also a requirement under the statute that the district has to revisit every 30 days, basically, this issue and reconsider the state of emergency and reconsider the issue of whether there's a continuing imminent threat or imminent risk to the health and safety of attendees. So if we decide to continue through all those procedures to continue with the way things are now, we have to revisit this roughly every 30 days. I can answer
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we identify that there is a timely need to add a resolution to this evening's board agenda.
Thank you, Director Gould.
I
Director Gould
second
made okay. Director Gould made the motion. Director Clark seconded the motion to have the item put onto the agenda for discussion. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Gould,
Aye.
Sally. Aye. I think you're muted, Director Orzali. You say aye. Can I do that, John? Is that good?
No, and it has to be by roll call.
Aye.
Okay, perfect. Director Wood,
Aye.
Sheets. Aye. Jones,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Sailors,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. So now that we have had this discussion, gotten the information that Council Lavra presented, what is your pleasure? So shall we, I guess a motion would be in order to go ahead and affirm that we wish to keep directors safe and continue under the premise that we have in order to maintain everybody's health and well-being.
I second that motion.
Sure, I'll make the motion that we have found that there's an imminent threat to the safety of attendees, and we should continue with our online meeting.
And since this is a new statute, if I could state it and then have the directors affirm it or not, the board would move to adopt a resolution finding that meeting in person would present imminent risk to the health and safety of the attendees pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953, subpart E.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We've got a motion by Director Woods, a second by Director Gould. Any questions on the motion, directors? Seeing no questions, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Gould,
Aye.
Orzali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets. Aye. Jones,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Sailors,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Council Lavra, does that suffice our needs?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 4, Sac Metro Fire Firefighters Local 522 report. Saw Mr. McGoldrick back there.
Yes.
Good evening, President Kelly and directors.
Good
Not
evening.
a report tonight that already hasn't been talked about. Our members are working harder than ever, as already has been stated, and that doesn't just refer to the fire suppression and EMS folks. It is also logistics, our fleet division. All those divisions are impacted with increased call volume. So I just wanted to, that's horrible. Just wanted to give them a shout out. They're working harder than ever. Also wanted to thank Erin and her team and executive staff on the grants. And it behooves me to also mention IAFF was an integral part in obtaining those grants. They have a review team that has always put us in the front of the line in order to get reviews. And they give us good feedback and edits in order to make our grant application successful. So thank you to IAFF. That's all I have for tonight, unless you have any questions.
Any questions of Captain McGoldrick? Seeing none, thank you for your report, sir. Moving on to committee and delegate reports. Executive Committee, nothing to report. Communications Center JPA, Deputy Chief Wagaman.
Oh, look at that.
Good evening, President Kelly and directors. Tyler Wagman, Deputy Chief Support Services, speaking on behalf of the JPA Dispatch Board. The board last met on September 14th. During that meeting, we had a really good presentation from our CAD vendor, Paraton. We wanted an update on where we're at with our new CAD system, our ability to upgrade, how long it's going to take to get upgraded and go live. So they gave us some really comprehensive information on the steps that we have taken so far, really a roadmap through that process, as well as left us with a really strong schedule, something that we can stand behind. And that schedule takes us really from today all the way up through September of next year, which is our tentative go live date. Obviously, there's lots of moving parts with this map project, but we hope to do our best to stay in alignment with this schedule. Also during that meeting, we had some action items that we approved, one of which was our Live Mug. This is a $500,000 software program that's going to assist our dispatchers with moving up resources. It uses real-time data as well as historical data in order to determine if a move up is warranted or not. So this is really good technology that we hope to get our hands on very soon. I would like to make mention that if it wasn't for our multi-million-dollar women here in Castleberry, this grant once again would not be possible. The efforts of Metro Fire really made it possible for our comm center to take advantage of this money. So thank you, Aaron, for your efforts. Also, we approved a software program for our phone system. It's called Automatic Call Distribution. And what this does is it actually identifies specific people that are going to receive 911 calls within the center. So if we have 5 call takers, the first calls that come in will go specifically to each one of those call takers. So the days of a phone ringing in the background and waiting for someone to pick it up or not knowing if someone's on the phone or not are hopefully going to go by the wayside. So if we have a command radio operator and the phone rings in their ear, the system already knows that each one of the call taker positions are already answering calls. So this is very important technology when we're talking about increased call volume at over 100 calls per day, as Chief Mitchell made mention to, over 110,000 calls right this year. That's going to equal over 600,000 911 calls. So enormous amount of calls are getting pushed through our comm center each and every year, and our ability to tap into these new technologies and disperse those calls accordingly is going to help out our dispatchers dramatically. In addition, we want to update you on our academy. So Chief Bailey, as well as his deputy directors and staff, are doing a great job with the new academy. They hired 12. Unfortunately, there was a couple that dropped out of the process just before they started, but I'm happy to report they've just finished week 2, and they have 10 dispatch recruits still in the process, and we hope to finish with 10. They have 4 weeks remaining, so I hope to update you at the next board meeting that we'll have 10 in the process because they're very much needed at this point. With that, that concludes my report. The board will meet once again on October 12th here at the Metro headquarters. Any questions?
Any board members have questions of Deputy Chief Wagaman? Thank you for your report, sir. Moving on to the California Fire and Rescue Training JPA, Chief Harms.
We have not met since our last meeting. Our next meeting is tomorrow at 10:30.
It says 4 p.m. on the schedule, but I'll trust you know when the meeting's actually going to happen. All right, moving on to Finance and Audit Committee, Director Orzali.
Finance and Audit Committee has not met. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 28th of October.
Thank you, sir. Policy Committee, Director Gould.
No report.
All right. How about the Redistricting Ad Hoc Committee? Ms. Sailors.
The Ad Hoc Committee, which has Director Jones and Director Orzali and myself on it, we met on September 21st via Zoom with the operations officer, Chris Chaffee, and the chief administration officer, Kimmy Sargentini, from Redistricting Partners via a Zoom meeting. We discussed the fact that we are approximately 24% out of compliance, having divisions 4, 6, and 7 being overpopulated and Division 9 being underpopulated when all the divisions are compared. We talked about various ways to divide the district using major streets, rivers, and fire station locations. We gave direction to redistricting partners to consider all of these items discussed and to return to our next meeting with 2 or 3 different maps for us to consider. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 6th, tentatively at 3 p.m. via Zoom.
Director Sailors, thank you for your report.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to board members' questions and comments. Director Orzali.
Just briefly, the redistricting committee, as I understand it, that meeting has been moved to 4 p.m. on October 6th. I just wanted to thank everyone, Ms. Castleberry and her team, for the effort that went into those grants. An amazing piece of work, and they are laborious to do. So congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, sir. Director Gould.
Ditto what Director Orzali said. I'm just very impressed this evening with all of the hard work that brings in millions of dollars, which, as the chief mentioned, lightens the load budgetarily when we think about all of the creative things that Metro has and will continue to do. So kudos around the groups for all of their hard work for bringing in those dollars. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Director Wood.
I have nothing further, just echo what's already been said.
Director Sheets.
I have nothing further. I'll echo.
Director Jones.
Thank you, President Kelly. I would like to reiterate that the work that Scott Perryman has done with the MIH, as well as Aaron Castleberry with all our grants, these are long-haul, long-term projects that take sometimes, well, many months, if not years and years to accomplish. And I'd like everyone to recognize the amount of work that goes in over such a long time period. So thank you both, to both of you and all the teams, all the members of your team. Thank you.
Director White.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what has been said about the grants, both Erin and her team. Appreciate the IAF review, all the hard work that, I was glad to hear Mr. McGoldrick or President McGoldrick, Vice President McGoldrick also acknowledge people not just on the line, but in the support divisions that are working hard every day. Very much appreciate that. And also Scott Perryman for his tireless work on mobile integrated health. And to the redistricting committee, I think if you consider cows and coyotes in my district, that things are population's probably pretty even. So something to consider.
All right then, Director Clark.
I have nothing further to add, Mr. Chairman.
Director Sailors.
Everyone else has said everything so eloquently, but thank you.
All right, I would like to say my appreciation for the work Mr. Perryman did with the managed integrated health. The possibilities for that group beyond COVID, I think, are limitless. And I would also like to remind everybody of a gentleman named Larry Davis. Yeah. I thought when Larry Davis left this district that the money that came in with grants and everything would evaporate. But I'd like to compliment Ms. Castleberry for doing such a wonderful job and bringing dollars to this district that are more valuable than a lot of work that is done, or it allows us to do many of the jobs and projects that we undertake. So thank you again to both of them. I hope everybody has a safe evening, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you. This concludes I call adjournment of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District's Board of Directors meeting. Have a good evening, everybody.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Same to all.